Well, hello there, and welcome to another episode of
Oodles of Brutals.
This, my friends, is a very special episode of Oodles of Brutals today. It is the first episode in a 4-part series that I like to call
Oodles of Brutals, Groove Metal Meltdown.
This is the start of a series in which I will count down my top 20 groove metal albums. Is groove metal a real metal subgenre? Well, that remains up for debate, but I've realized that I like a lot of albums that are classified as groove metal, so therefore I've decided to compile this list. Groove metal, as we know it, started in the 90s. Some people say that Exorder was the first groove metal band, but Pantera was the one that popularized it. And I think that's enough of a history lesson.
You can go look that shit up yourself.
So without further ado, let's begin. Cheers, here's to ya. Oh, and by the way, this is apple cider, not a drunk man's piss. First up, my friends, we have a big one. One of the heavy hitters of groove metal, as far as classic albums are concerned, and that is Fight, War of Words. This was released on Epic back in 1993, and it features Rob Halford, who had just left Judas Priest and struck out on his own to do a bunch of stuff, including Fight and the Industrial Band 2, and his own Halford band, so a slew of shit that he did, but Fight's War of Words is probably the best thing he did outside of Judas Priest. It also features Scott Travis, who played drums on Judas Priest's best album, Painkiller, so you know we've got some good stuff there with Halford on vocals and Scott Travis on drums. And this album is nothing like Judas Priest, with the exception of some of Halford's vocal stylings. It is more in a groove metal vein. It sounds like kind of a Pantera-ish guitar playing style, riffing, that type of thing, and it's actually quite good. My favorite song on here is, I believe this was the first single, Nailed to the Gun. There was a video for it that's really fun to watch. If you can track that down, it's probably on YouTube or somewhere out there in the internet verse. Great song. I also like Little Crazy a lot. I tend to gravitate towards the singles apparently, but I also like Into the Pit, Life in Black, Immortal Sin. All the songs on here are actually quite good. This band, in my opinion, is super underrated. They only did 2 albums, and I don't think they really did much as far as sales and stuff like that. I'm not sure. You can fact check me on that, but obviously Halford went back to Judas Priest, as did Scott Travis, so I just don't think Fight ever really did that well, unfortunately, but I really like this album a lot. I think it's super underrated. It is one of the classics of groove metal, in my opinion. That is Fight, War of Words. Up next, my friends, a band that many people love to hate, and that is Skinlab with Disembody the New Flesh. This was released in 1999 on Century Media, and I don't understand all the hate that Skinlab gets. I think they're a kick-ass band. I have all their albums. I like all their albums. I've seen them live, and they were fucking fantastic. Maybe it has something to do with the fact that Rob Flynn from Machine Head first helped them get noticed. I don't know if that's what it is, but I think they're a pretty badass groove metal band. They're one of the bands that really epitomizes groove metal. It's just got those kind of groovy mid-paced riffs that the subgenre is known for. They never really went into like the industrial side of things, which a lot of other groove metal bands kind of did. They stayed pure. They continue to kick ass to this day. Their last album, Venomous, is really good. You should check that out if you're into such things. But yeah, this is a band a lot of people give shit to, but I think they're fucking awesome. Andy Sneap actually produced this album, and he now plays guitar for Judas Priest in the live setting on occasion. So kind of an interesting connection there. But this is just one of the purest, most kick-ass groove metal albums there is, in my opinion.
And of course, if you're not down with that, we got 2 words for you!
That is Skinlab, Disembody the New Flesh, their second album and probably their best album. Coming in the number 3 spot, we have Gojira with Terra Incognita. Now, is this Gojira's best album? I'm not so sure, but it is probably their most pure groove metal album. In essence, it's actually kind of a hybrid of groove metal and death metal, in my opinion. I don't know if I'd call Gojira a groove metal band at this point. They're just kind of their own thing now, but this album clearly had a pretty significant groove metal influence. You can definitely hear in the riffs some Pantera and some Machine Head, that type of thing. They've got some pretty heavy breakdowns on this one as well. So yeah, it was kind of cool to hear a band do a sort of a groove metal / death metal hybrid. This album was released originally on Gabriel back in 2001. And obviously it's been reissued, I believe, several times at this point. This is the Listenable Records pressing. But yeah, obviously Gojira blew up into a huge fucking band. Again, probably not their best album, but it is their heaviest and rawest and dirtiest, and you could tell they were just going to have a kick-ass career from this one. This is Gojira with Terra Incognita. Taking the number 4 spot, we have Dominus with Godfellows. This was released in 2000 on Progress Records, and good luck finding this on CD. I don't know why all of Dominus material seems to be hard to find and or out of print, but I just happened to find this used out of pure luck. But Dominus also started off as a pure death metal band. They slowly but surely over the course of their 4 albums started to add groove metal elements and became pretty much full-blown groove metal by the time Godfellows came out. Again, this is really hard to find one. This is kind of one of the deep cuts of groove metal in my opinion, but it's well worth seeking out. I believe you can listen to it on YouTube. I do not think any of Dominus material is on Spotify, but if you can get a hold of this one, it's a very cool groove metal album with still some elements of death metal that kind of make it sound a little heavier and a little meaner. But yeah, hard one to find, but if you can track it down, definitely worth checking out. That is Dominus, Godfellows. Coming in at number 5, we have Stampin' Ground with A New Darkness Upon Us. This was released in 2003 on Century Media, and I found out about Stampin' Ground via, I believe it was either Terrorizer or Metal Hammer. If you guys recall back in the day, I don't know if this is still the case, but back in the day, all the UK metal magazines were super duper partisan, and they really pushed all the UK bands hard as fuck. So that's where I found out about Stampin' Ground and Iron Monkey and Raging Speedhorn, all these cool UK bands that came out around that time. But Stampin' Ground's kind of interesting because they really show that groove metal, there's really no unified element to groove metal with the exception of the groovy riffs, because whereas you've got Dominus that was a death metal band, and you've got Gojira that was kind of a hybrid death metal / groove metal, bands like Skinlab, which are pure groove metal, Stampin' Ground very much had a thrash and especially a hardcore influence to their sound. It's almost like a Slayer meets Hatebreed type of sound, in my opinion. Maybe a little bit of like New York more New York hardcore, like Agnostic Front or Madball in their sound as well. So very different from a lot of the other bands you're going to see on this list as we go through it. And a very cool sounding band, in my opinion. These guys never really got the credit they deserved, in my opinion. They put out 4 albums. I think this one was their best one, but it's also their last one. Andy Sneap strikes again. Apparently he was down with groove metal because he also produced this album, and it sounds fucking fantastic. Again, it's just kind of a hybrid thrash, hardcore, groove metal. And yeah, it's one of the most underrated albums you'll see on this list. It's pretty easy to track this down for cheap these days. I got it for $2.95 from Rasputin. I can't remember when I actually bought this. I've had it forever at this point. But yeah, one of the best groove metal albums, one of the most underrated, one you may or may not have heard of, depending on if you read UK metal magazines in the late 90s and early 2000s. This is Stampin' Ground with A New Darkness Upon Us. Well, guys, that wraps it up for the first installment of Groove Metal Meltdown. We have 3 more installments to go to count down the top 20, but I think we're off to a pretty good start. This list is just going to keep getting more and more kick-ass as it goes. Do you guys like groove metal? Do you hate groove metal? Do you think groove metal is an actual subgenre of metal, or is it just something that journalists made up to kind of clump together a bunch of bands that really don't sound that much alike? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to
smash the living shit out of that subscribe button.
It helps me a lot. I want to keep this channel going. I want to continue to make it better. So please subscribe. It's free. Let me know how I'm doing. Let me know if you think my videos are stupid or if you love them, whatever. Be sure to comment. Be sure to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching and take care. Here's to ya. Cheers.